It all began with a glimmer on August 6, 2025. A moment so quiet, so sterile in a lab, and yet so deeply unsettling in its implications. The James Webb Space Telescope, the most powerful observatory in human history, was forced into an emergency override. This is a protocol that burns precious time, fuel, and budget, interrupting every scheduled observation. It's a move that has only been executed a handful of times, and never before for an interstellar object. It wasn't triggered for a supernova or a black hole, but for something far more local and far more terrifying, an object designated 3I, Atlas. It was first assumed to be another interstellar wanderer, cold, silent, and predictable. But when Webb's sensors locked on and the first wave of data poured in, what they captured wasn't just unexpected. It was impossible. The chemical signature didn't fit any natural model. The ratios were grotesque, the elements mismatched, the behavior erratic. As the numbers kept arriving, one fear began to quietly thread its way through the minds of every astrophysicist watching the feed. What if this isn't a comet at all? The first anomaly, the frozen wake, the first sign that something was terribly wrong, came from the object's coma. At its distance, 6 astronomical units, from the Sun, far beyond the orbit of Jupiter, a comet should be asleep. The sunlight out there is weak, too feeble to cause any meaningful sublimation. An object should be frozen, inert. But 3I, ATLAS was already active. Violently so. James Webb picked up spectral lines dominated not by the expected water vapor, but by carbon dioxide. A lot of it. The data showed an 8-to-1 ratio, 8 times more CO2 than water. That number isn't just unusual, it's unprecedented. Typical comets barely reach 0.7. Even 2I, Borisov, the last interstellar visitor, hovered around 0.5. This was something else. This was a body spewing carbon dioxide at a rate that couldn't be explained by temperature or solar proximity. It was as if the object had been designed to vent this exact compound under conditions where nature wouldn't permit it. Even stranger, the coma was ghostly thin. There was almost no dust, no solid debris, no typical chaos. Just gas. A controlled, smooth, and highly specific emission that hinted at a different kind of chemistry, one alien to our understanding of how comets are formed. The second anomaly. The impossible metal. As Webb locked in deeper, the story turned darker. Its sensors picked up something even more disturbing than the gas: nickel. Strong, consistent nickel spectral lines started appearing, rising in concentration the closer the object came. At 3.8 astronomical units, the output was already measuring above $10 carat, $21 atoms per second. By 2.85 astronomical units, it had increased by an entire order of magnitude. But the shock wasn't the presence of nickel. It was what was missing: iron. Across all instruments, from Webb to the Very Large Telescope to Gemini, iron was absent. Flat. Dead. In every natural comet, asteroid, and meteorite ever recorded, nickel and iron are partners. They are born in the same stellar forges, bonded by physics and fused in ancient supernova explosions. The ratio may vary slightly, but the partnership is absolute. About 1 part nickel to 15 parts iron. 3I, ATLAS broke this fundamental rule. Nickel outweighed iron by more than 40 to 1. There is no known natural process that can create such a split. In our labs, separating these metals requires industrial energy, machinery, and intent. The team proposed one explanation: the presence of nickel carbonyl, a volatile compound that vaporizes at just 43 degrees Celsius. But even this rare molecule doesn't explain the total absence of iron. The result was a spectral fingerprint that matched nothing. Not Borisov, not Oumuamua. It was a chemical composition so skewed, so deliberate, that even the most conservative voices began to ask, what kind of place, what kind of technology, could form this? It echoed a strange, ancient mystery from our own planet. The Egyptians called it, metal from heaven. The blade buried with King Tutankhamun contains nearly 11% nickel, a composition matching meteorites. Across the ancient world, elite artifacts appear, crafted from metals richer in nickel than any earthly ore. And now, in 2025, we are watching the sky and seeing that same impossible signature: high nickel, no iron, and no known source. Even before the chemical signatures were decoded, the Pan-STARRS tracking network flagged another impossibility. 3I ATLAS was accelerating. It wasn't a gentle nudge from solar pressure. Over just 72 hours, its velocity increased by 0.12 meters per square second. That may sound small, but for a body 11 kilometers wide, the size of a city, that kind of acceleration is immense. It was like seeing a cruise ship pick up speed in the middle of a dead calm ocean, with no engines and no wind. The acceleration wasn't smooth. It was rhythmic. Photometric data from the TESS Space Telescope revealed a periodic brightening every 7.2 hours. This was no chaotic tumble. The brightness spikes were too clean, too exact. They appeared and vanished like a beacon, on and off, in perfect intervals. Even as the object vented gas and accelerated, this 7.2-hour rhythm didn't change. It held its cycle like a metronome. This stability suggested something far more structured. Some theorized a light sail, a wide reflective structure designed to catch solar radiation. Others proposed a rotating platform with flat panels. But all agreed. The behavior didn't match any known natural object. This wasn't a spin. It was a signal. The fourth anomaly. The echo in the Earth. Only days after the Webb override, geophysicists in the southern hemisphere began detecting anomalies in Earth's magnetic field. In multiple locations, Antarctica, Argentina, and Western Australia, identical ultra-low frequency, ULF, pulses were registered. They were spaced at perfect 7.2-hour intervals, exactly matching the light curve periodicity of 3I Atlas. These pulses didn't follow the pattern of solar storms. They didn't originate from above, but from within the Earth itself. Something deep in our planet had begun to resonate, not loudly, but rhythmically, like a tuning fork catching the hum of a distant song. The idea that Earth's ancient electromagnetic systems might synchronize with something passing through the solar system is terrifying. Not because it implies danger, but because it implies history. That this isn't the first time. The final anomaly. The engineered path when plotted from its entry to its projected exit, the object's course revealed something almost too perfect. 3I ATLAS didn't just move by gravity's pull. It navigated. Its path avoided every major body in the system, threading between gravitational wells like a spacecraft running a pre-programmed course. Astronomers fed the data into trajectory models used for NASA's planetary slingshot maneuvers. The result? A 92.6% match with an engineered flight path. The object isn't just drifting. It's leaving. And its exit trajectory aligns with a narrow spatial corridor just beyond Saturn, a theorized gravity null point, a gateway to the outer heliopause. The timing, the positioning, the acceleration. All of it points not just to travel, but to navigation. Not to discovery, but to the execution of a mission. One, it seems, that was nearly complete. The shutdown the moment everything shifted came not from a new discovery, but from an absence of one. Just as James Webb prepared for another round of high-resolution scans, just as the object crossed within 2.5 astronomical units, the emissions began to fade. The nickel spectral lines dimmed. The CO2 outflow slowed. The periodic 7.2-hour light curve flattened. Then, all at once, 3I, ATLAS went dark. It dropped below Webb's detection threshold, not because of distance or obstruction, but because it had stopped glowing. This was not a natural fade. It was a shutdown. Every observable behavior, chemical, thermal, and rhythmic, ceased within the span of 11 hours. Instruments across the world confirmed it. Gemini, Subaru, the Very Large Telescope. All recorded the same. 3I, ATLAS had gone cold. The silence was immediate, deliberate, and total. It was an act of camouflage. Or worse, the end of a broadcast. The verdict: we thought we were alone because we heard no voices. We assumed silence meant safety. But now we know better. The James Webb Telescope didn't just detect an object. It recorded the execution of a program. A trajectory too clean, a chemistry too precise, a frequency too rhythmic. 3I, ATLAS wasn't broadcasting a message. It was running a sequence. A sequence that altered the gravity around it. A sequence that triggered electromagnetic tremors deep within our own planet. And when it was done, when it had tested its systems, or perhaps confirmed a lock on its target, it simply stopped. It didn't leave. It blended into the silence, into the system, into the places we no longer look. That's the final horror. Not that we saw something alive, but that we witnessed the machinery of something far older completing a task we can't comprehend. If this story made you question what's really out there, subscribe. Turn on notifications. Because the next object won't knock. It will just arrive.